Hey guys, what's up? It's Borish here. On this video, I'm going to teach you how to make chocolate chip cookies. Okay, so we'll walk through the ingredients in a sec. First thing we need to do is preheat the oven, so these are ready to go. So we're going to preheat the oven over here to 350 degrees, just the standard, turn that on. Okay, so let's walk through what we got here. So when we're going to bake them, we're going to have this cooking sheet, basically a very normal metal pan. We'll take some aluminum foil and just put that right on top. Okay, so looking through the ingredients, we're going to start the base with 2 sticks of butter, some white sugar and some brown sugar. After that, we'll put in some eggs, salt, baking soda, a little bit of vanilla extract, maybe some cream and tartar, that's optional. After we have that, then we'll have some nice, just normal flour. I love the flour from Trader Joe's, and then we'll put in the chocolate chips. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is blend the butter with the sugar. So we're going to need 2 sticks of butter over here, and then a cup each of white and brown sugar. So come on over here, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is put the butter in. It's going to be easier if you don't just throw the whole sticks in. You can, but what you want to do is just kind of cut them in small parts. So I have a little knife here, and what I'm going to do is take this and then just kind of do some slices, dump them in. Do some slices, dump it in. One thing that's kind of notable here is I put the butter at room temperature for about an hour or so before I started cooking. Again, you don't need to do that, or you could warm it up a little in the microwave, but it just is easier to work with if it's not kind of cold out of the fridge when you get started. Okay, so that was one stick. We'll do the other stick. You can tell this is a really healthy recipe, low on fats and calories for you. So we'll go ahead and get that, and then now that that's done, okay, now we'll go ahead and put in the sugars. So we have white sugar and brown sugar. You could use all white sugar, but I think the brown sugar gives it like a nice texture to it. So here's 1 cup of white sugar, and then we'll have 1 cup of brown sugar. If you have a choice between dark brown and light brown sugar, I like dark brown sugar, just it has a little extra nicer flavor to it. Brown sugar does kind of clump up a little bit, so once you open it, just make sure you seal the bag so it doesn't go to waste and kind of harden up. Okay, so mix those in. Now let's go ahead, we're going to take this and put it on the stand mixer. So if you have this adjustment right here on your stand mixer, this is the best thing to mix the cookie dough with. So we'll put it on here, and we'll just start with kind of a nice medium blend here. And just let everything kind of blend together, work its way up. Okay, and we don't want to kind of overbeat this necessarily, but we do want to beat it until the sugars and the flour the sugars and the butter are pretty well mixed. Okay, so I'll bring this over to show you real quick. This is fine. Okay, so again, nothing too crazy. Once you have it looking like, looking like that, I think that's perfectly fine. So now, let's go ahead and throw this little bit in a row here. The next thing we're going to do is mix in eggs. So we have 2 eggs, and we're going to put these in one at a time, beat a little bit. All right, so let's just keep mixing here. I'll put it on medium-low. Crack the first egg in. Okay, wait a minute just to make sure that gets blended. Obviously, you want to be careful and make sure you don't get any of the eggshell in the dough. Okay, I'm going to turn it up a little bit so that goes a little faster. All right. That's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and put the second egg in. Crack that. Okay. And we'll wait for this. Now, as you know, raw eggs are not the best, so I'm going to pause the video real quick while I wash my hands, and then we'll come back and put the rest of the ingredients together. Okay, so the eggs are pretty well beat at this point. They're well mixed in. Next thing we're going to do is add some of the dry ingredients. So we're going to start with baking soda, just normal baking soda. You should have some of this. We'll take 1 teaspoon. Okay, so we'll take that and put that in. Some people like to mix the teaspoon with water. I haven't kind of noticed a difference with that, so I just do it this way, which is easy. Okay, so that's the preheating oven done. I'm going to put in a little bit of cream and tartar. This just changes the texture a little bit. I just put a dash in. I don't even measure it. If you don't put any cream and tartar in, it's fine. It won't affect much of anything. You do want to put a little salt in. I think most recipes call for about ½ a teaspoon. You don't necessarily need to measure. Just put a bit in, not a ton, but you just want a little to add some flavor to it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is put in vanilla extract. So this is kind of expensive, so I make my own at home. You might have some, you don't need to home make it. It takes a year or 2 to make, so that's fine. I mean, not to make, but it just sits there. So there's 1 teaspoon of that. Now we're going to do a 2nd teaspoon of that as well. I love the flavor of vanilla, so I think you'll enjoy that as well. It gives it just a nice little taste, extra flavor. Okay, So that's that. Let's go ahead now and put that back on medium again and beat that just for a minute. One thing that's going to happen sometimes is the batter will stick to the sides. And when that happens, you can just turn it down for a sec and then kind of put this little spatula in or whatever you have like this and just kind of get some away from the sides and then keep beating. And that'll just make sure that everything stays away. Okay, so that's looking pretty good at this point. Everything looks pretty uniform. Again, you don't need to overbeat it, just a little bit like this. Everything's looking nice at this point. Take a minute. Come on over and take a look at this here so we can see. So this is what your dough should look like at this point. Now we need to add the final step. And the final step is just a little bit of flour and the actual chocolate chips. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started with the flour first. Again, that's just normal all-purpose flour. You can do cake flour, but just use the normal stuff. It's cheaper. You can't tell the difference anyway. Okay, so we're going to use 3 cups of this. Like I said, I love Trader Joe's flour. I think it has a great flavor to it, but whatever you have, it should be fine. Okay, so there's 1 cup, 2 cups, and then here comes the 3rd cup. Okay, so now we'll get to the exciting part. We have the actual chocolate chips. My favorite are semi-sweet baking chips. Some people like milk chocolate or dark chocolate. I just think the semi-sweet is the best for baking. So we want to do 2 cups for that. So let's just go ahead and do this. All right, so there's 1, a little under 1 cup. So let's dump that in. And then we're going to have a 2nd cup. And by now, you should be getting pretty full in your little mixer here. Okay, so that's my 2nd pot. Okay, so we'll go ahead now and dump those in. Okay, now we're going to mix again. Because you added the flour, sometimes this will kind of kick up. So I like to put my hands here just to prevent more flour from making a bigger mess in your kitchen than I've already made. So once you've done that for a few seconds, then we can kind of maybe lock it and turn it up to medium. Again, you don't need to do this for too long. And if any batter is sticking to the sides, just go ahead and turn it off. And you can kind of use your spatula to put it back in here. So that looks pretty good though. We're almost done here. And by the way, this recipe should be good for somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 dozen cookies is what we're shooting for. Okay. So at this point, things are looking pretty good. My dough looks pretty uniform. The chocolate chips are kind of beat throughout and everything. So let's turn this off and take a look. So we'll unlock it here. Okay, so you got a lot on here. Use a spatula or fork or something just to put the dough back in. If you want salmonella poisoning, feel free to grab some big globs of this and eat it by yourself. Okay, so now I think we're ready to go ahead and put this on our baking pan and make some cookies. Okay, so that looks pretty good here. Here's what your final dough should look like. This is the rough idea. Okay, so now let's go back over here to our pre-prepared baking pan. Again, we just put aluminum foil in here. So I'll just grab a regular spoon now and just make cookies. Now, I don't like to flatten them down because I don't like the texture of the cookies. Some people flatten them down. I just take a little spoon, nothing crazy, put it on. Take a full spoon, put it on. And usually, you want to keep them relatively spaced apart so they don't kind of go together too well. But we'll go ahead, I'll put 12 on here, and that should be well shaped for that. But again, I just use my hand and a spoon and put those on. Okay, so when we cook these in the oven, we're going to cook these for roughly 10 to 12 minutes, depending on your oven, maybe as high as 13 or 14. My oven's a little on the cool side, so I'm going to start with 12 minutes, and we'll see how they look in 12 minutes and take a peek then. Okay, so I have 12 cookies, and they're all spread apart. My oven is preheated because I did that at the start. I think we're ready to go. Okay, so this is what things are looking like. And I'll go ahead and pop those in the oven, and we'll come back and take a look at it in 10 to 12 minutes. All right, thanks. Okay, well, the cookies are done. It's been about 15 minutes because, again, my oven's a little slower than normal. Typically 12 to 13 is what I've had. Okay, so let's take a look over here. These look great. This is what you're hoping for. They should have a texture that looks like this. You can see a little bit of browning around the outside, but not too much. To me, this is what you're looking for. Okay, now we're not going to eat these right away. I like to let them sit for about 2 or 3 minutes just so they can solidify a little, aren't too molten. But in 2 or 3 minutes, we can pour ourselves a glass of milk and enjoy. All right, thanks for watching.